Hey everybody, Barnstorm and Betty just took a nice dip here in Bartonville, Illinois, but you can't leave Bartonville without checking out the main attraction. We are here at the famous cemetery, which we will get into in a moment, next to what was the old tuberculosis wing of the old Peoria State Hospital, also known as Zeller Hospital, and the Peoria Hospital for the Incurable Insane. And
That's what it was called.
Some of the cottages over here to the left. Sorry, it might be hard to hear me over the cicadas, but we are going to enter one of these cemeteries. And as we are, and I would ask you, my viewers, if you guys come here, please enter this place with respect. This is a place of burial, and please be respectful of the people who are buried here. Come on, let's go check it out. Now, while we're walking, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the most famous patients that were buried here. One of the gravestones we will see belonged to a bookbinder. When he showed up at the hospital on his chart, it said a manual bookbinder. So he was a manual bookbinder in Chicago. They did not know his name, so they called him manual bookbinder or old book. And the other patient we're going to see is Rhoda Derry. Rhoda came from southern Illinois, and she was pretty much confined to a Utica crib her entire life, which is basically an adult-sized crib, because she was blind. Poor Rhoda cut out her own eyes, which she was
gouged them out.
Yeah, gouged them out.
She suffered from this mental disorder that made her want to eat anything that she could get her hands on.
Yeah. She was once a woman who was engaged to be married to a McNamara boy. And I'm not exactly sure what happened, but found herself in a mental institution, and she was blind. She couldn't walk. She scooted around, and the crib made her crippled. But Dr. Zeller, like he did with most of his patients when they arrived here, he would take off all their shackles and all their torture devices, and he let Rhoda out of her Utica crib, and she would go around, and if they say encounter her spirit, she'll pat your pocket looking for tobacco. She really liked that. So here, as you can see, many died every day, especially from tuberculosis. Now they were buried sideways, and all of these little stones were erected with their numbers on it, the patient numbers, which is really sad. A lot of the patients' families didn't want their family name out there. So unless they privately pay for something, you're not going to find their name. So here is one that actually the family paid to have their name put on it. I do not know about this patient, but like I said, this was a later addition from these concrete stones. Now let's see here. And there's a ravine that cuts all the cemeteries up, creating 3 of them.
Yeah, and a lot of these gravestones haven't really been attended to, so they're just kind of falling apart. Some of them are falling into the ravine over there.
Yeah, there's a ravine that cuts all of them. There's a cemetery over there, a cemetery over there.
Even the more well-kept ones, you can tell, are starting to fall in.
That the family paid for. But I mean, thousands of people and hundreds have died every day. So I think this is either Rhoda's or Brooks over here.
And the sad one right here, it doesn't even, just a stump.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that there was money to restore these. And usually you get more activity during the fall time. Everybody comes to the haunted house. There's 2 haunted houses. They got Aura and I can't think of the other one's name. Aura and the
infirmary is one of them.
The infirmary, yes, the haunted infirmary. So here is manual bookbinder's grave, and usually some people leave offerings. I forgot to bring an offering, and he was the one that, okay, do you want to tell the tale, Ethan, about Bookbinder? You want me to record you telling the tale?
Sure, give me a second. Here, I'll pause.
Okay, Ethan, why don't you tell us the story about Bookbinder?
So, the Bookbinder, so we kind of talked about him already, but his job, because the way that this asylum worked, or this hospital worked, is that instead of people being locked in one giant building, they would be given jobs. Basically, it was like a little village for these patients to basically live in their own version of society. Because Dr. Zeller believed that rehabilitating people required them to be treated like normal people. So Bookbinder his job was to dig graves for the patients that died, mostly of tuberculosis, because it was really bad during that time. That building over there, 4,000 people died. But basically, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were related to him, if he knew you at all. It didn't matter what affiliation you had with them. He would cry at every funeral that they would have here, and he would cry really, really, really loud and very, very passionately. And over time, the patients believed that if you didn't cry at your funeral, you wouldn't go to heaven. You would be stuck in limbo. So, but the sad thing is that he was dying at the time. He was suffering from an illness like many others were at the time, and he had a red handkerchief and he was coughing up blood. And whenever he would cry at a funeral, he would go up against a tree and he would bawl against the tree. Well, of course, one day he passed away, and they had a funeral for him. But the thing was that when they were lowering him into the ground, sorry, there's a gnat there. When they were lowering him to the ground, they could swear they could hear him crying at his own funeral. And apparently they saw him there physically. You know, it's kind of, some of this is kind of up to who you hear it from. And apparently they might have even opened the casket at one point and not seen him. But the thing is that tree that he used to cry on became kind of his place where he would haunt it. So people would try to go up to that tree and destroy it because it would cause so many problems. And every time they would hear screams of anger and sadness and grief. Well, the thing about it that makes it so weird is that after Bookbinder died, the tree itself began to die on its own. It started to shrivel. And one day, it got so old and got so frail that it broke off and fell into the nearby creek over there. And apparently you could hear him screaming as it broke and fell into the ravine. And now it's, now it's believed, the legend is that if you come here at a certain time, you could hear him walking along the cemetery crying.
So when he was actually, being buried, and Dr. Zeller wrote this in his journal, that they heard him crying, and they all looked to the tree, and lo and behold, his spirit was crying. And when they were so distracted, they were lowering the casket into the ground, and it was as light as a feather, and it bounced open, and it was empty for a moment. And then they looked back, and his spirit was gone, and the body was back in the casket. So, and this is something Dr. Zeller wrote in his own journals. And Dr. Zeller, as I said, took all the torture device stuff off the patients as they arrived, and he collected it. And he is famously known for coining the term PTSD and also postpartum. He understood that something was going on with women when they gave birth to babies. And then down here, which you're really not supposed to go down here, we're not going to go. Also, folks, it's buggy. It's a very muggy day, almost August in Illinois. But they literally took everything from the hospital and bulldozed it down. And of course, all the patients' files have deteriorated. But there's so many shards of plates, and I have found silverware and doll heads and all kinds of creepy stuff. And the things I have found and salvaged, I have given to the hospital museum because I just feel like it needs to stay on the grounds. And plus, I wouldn't want to take anything home. Like, I would not want any spiritual attachment. But that's my belief. But let's walk around. I don't know if Rhoda's here or if she was in the other cemetery.
I think she was buried in like the rich area, because the way that it worked back then is that they buried people based off of their financial situation or their family. So, but the thing here, just looking at these graves are like leaning and they're falling into this. It's very, abstract, very weird to see nowadays. I've always wanted to make some sort of, film here or something here, so this is like kind of exciting for me. But yeah, a lot of these graves have since fallen over and they don't know where they go to, so they just stack them up against the tree here. And yeah,
I bet all these were before the Spanish flu.
yeah, as you can tell.
1918, I think.
And you got to be careful, because some of these graves you don't even know if you're walking over them or not, because they're just all over the place. It makes me really sad. This place is protected, but they're not able to upkeep it. So And who knows where, what really worries me is if they open up the, you know, if because of the wall falling in, that maybe some of the coffins might have fallen into the creek. But, you know, that's kind of stuff for local speculation. What? Oh, yeah. Well, look how deep down this goes, you know. So, but yeah, this is it's really quite something. Trying to be respectful, trying to walk in between the gravestones, not on them.
Well, also what I think is really important to really bring home is not everybody here was, you know, insane. Like women, if a man wanted to get rid of his wife, all she needed was 2 men to speak, you know, on against her. You had people, they, you know, believe in homosexuality as something as mentally ill. Hysteria. I mean, there was so many things that people could be committed for that didn't deserve this. But at least everybody had a job and everybody had a purpose. They had a zoo here. They had a spring bazaar, which they still hold to this day, and I sell at. I like to sell my crafts at the bazaar. It's just insane how the littlest things could get you committed here, but he gave them a good life. You know, now back towards when it was closing, the state didn't have enough nurses per patient, and yes, those were the dark ages, but Zeller had been long gone by then, and it really tainted his name and his legacy.
But yeah, we'll definitely make a video that's more in depth. So I just wanted to show you this real quick since we were in town. But yeah, this is really nice. I like, oh, gotta be careful. Almost stepped on that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. If you're ever in the Bartonville area, you know, in the Peoria area, you know, take a look at this place. This place is open to the public from, you know,
From dawn to dusk.
yeah, from dawn to dusk. So yeah, and this isn't the only cemetery. There's 2 other ones around. It might be a little hard to find for some people because this area has become pretty filled with businesses, but it's not too hard to miss this old architecture. So, but yeah.